So MOUs, I can tell you where we started, and I can tell you how far we haven't come, because that's what my notes say. So we started out just kind of having some conversations about, hey, we thought last year worked pretty well, and especially since last year the leave slots ended up being essentially one of management's last proposals, we figured it would be pretty easy just to roll it over. And then that way we would get to have a year where we don't have to brief you guys on everything that's going to be different last year or this year as opposed to last year, because we have to do that every single year. So I think we had about 3 meetings talking about using last year's, and they were not interested. Their concerns are, as always, FMLA and incapacitations, which we don't bargain around those things. And just because their projections are off doesn't really mean anything to us. I said, if you have your baseline and your projections go up, that doesn't mean that the leave opportunities go down. It just means your overtime usage goes up, which is, of course, what they're trying to avoid. So leave is a lot just a math problem with how much people earn, how many people you have, and all that. The part that's negotiable still is the length of the primetime period. So last year we went year-round primetime because they offered us the 2 rounds of bidding the extra slot. So this year we just said, okay, we'll go back to using a primetime period, which we just modeled around St. Vrain School District and Thompson Valley School District spring breaks, and then their summer break, and then a week around Thanksgiving and Christmas. So with that would give area 1, 3, I think it was, so areas 2 and 6 would end up getting 5 opportunities in the primetime period for the first round, 3 everywhere else, and then everybody else would get 3 everywhere and then a 4th in that primetime period. But they're not interested in offering any more than 3 leave slots in, I think, any area. So they want to go 3 and 2 in most areas, and then a couple areas I think they're like 3 year round. So we're not really interested in that. We did tweak the primetime period to add like 1 week in the summer, which reduced, because it was given area 3 and 5 a 5th slot also, which, trying to be reasonable and responsible, since area 1 we were looking for 4 and 3, and areas 3 and 5 are going to barely bid more people than area 1 next year, and they have higher staffing need. We said we'll just ask for the same. So yeah, I mean, we're close on the body of the basic watch schedule MOU, but the areas are still going over shift guidelines and staffing numbers, shift start times, and all that. So we have a meeting scheduled for Thursday, and I mean, they don't really want to make any decisions that will cost them any money. So really what they want to do is just go to the region and have the region tell them what they have to do. That way they have no responsibility and no ownership of anything that comes along. So if it goes out the building or when it goes outside the building, I think we're in a really good place because, we offered to roll over their proposal from last year. They said no to that. So we came up with our proposal. They said no to that and, came back with one that we thought was kind of ridiculous. So then that was where we tweaked the primetime period. So we've made some minor concessions all the way along, and they have basically made no concessions. And so if somebody else looks at that, I mean, they'll just look at it and be like, okay, you've done nothing to try and help this out, and you guys have actually done something, so we'll see where that goes. The third person mid-shift stuff was something that had come up over the summer, with some of the mid-shifts during the week getting really busy on the mid, or I guess the mid-shifts would only be busy on the mid, but getting really busy towards to the middle of the mid. So we had some data pulled, and I think between like all the areas besides area 1, it was up somewhere, what was it, like 10 to 15%, I think, increase. over previous years. And so they wanted to go like 4 to midnight shift and then hold the person over if they needed to, but we weren't really keen on that. They wanted to do like a 5 to 1, but the traffic increase goes all the way to like 2:30. So we came up with an idea. Well, there's a couple different options out there as far as what the areas are looking at, and there's a 6 p.m. start time going till 2 a.m., which would be kind of basically a swing shift. You'd start your week on it. It would be 6 pay periods over the summer. The other option was we would look at putting a third person on the mid, but it would be more of it would be like a 9-9-8-7-7 shift, and the last two sevens would be a 0500 to 12 p.m., and then you would come back in at 8 p.m. and work until 3 a.m. And then that would be same thing, 6 pay periods over the summer. So those are kind of the options that are out there that they're looking at. I don't know if any areas have actually made any decisions on that yet, but they don't want to just put a third person on the mid. Most of the OMs agree that there's a need, but they say we don't have the staffing for it, which we don't really agree is an issue. I mean, we agree that we are short-staffed, but if you have a need for it, then you need to staff it, not just say we don't have the staffing for it. Does anybody have any questions about any MOU stuff, staffing stuff, leave stuff? Okay. Training department delays. I don't know if there's any trainees in here. Oh, there he is. So, I mean, we can let Matt speak on this a little bit. Maybe he's talked to Tina more recently, but there's just a shortage of instructors, basically. I know they hired some RPOs recently, I think, or they're trying to hire some RPOs to kind of help that out.
I'm not sure exactly where they're at with it,
because basically a simulator problem, if they're using just what they have in the training department, takes an instructor to be the R side or the D side, whichever they're doing, an instructor to instruct the problem, and then 2 instructors to fly the problem, right? So
yeah,
4.
Essentially, yeah.
It takes 4 people to run it, and the only resources they had up there were instructors. So it would take 4 instructors to run one problem, and then the instructors that they have, none of them work full time. So there's days that they're here and they're not here and whatever. So they're trying to hire a couple RPOs. Did they get any fiscal year money? Are they going to get extra?
They're supposedly on budget now. So, but I don't know if that means they've got money for new RPOs. They've got money to pay for what they've already got, but
as far as getting more than what they got last year.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of see how that goes. What we were able to do with Area 2 was take some people off the floor to run either the R side or the D side and go back there, and then that would kind of alleviate that a little bit. If they hire some RPOs and we're able to get some more people off the floor, since we're coming in kind of our slow traffic period, we can get some people off the floor to just go back, run a problem or two, and then, we only need half as many instructors. So we'll see how that goes. But there's still going to be some delay just with the amount of people that we have coming in through, and then people that we have going back up that we're training D sides, R sides. There's not a lot of them, probably maybe 6 of them that are training D sides right now that are going to have to go back up for R sides.
At that point, one thing I'll add to that is a lot of people who are coming in over the next year or even 6 months are a lot of center transfers. So, I mean, yay for people with lots of seniority. Don't have to worry about that, but they should go through fast. It shouldn't be an issue as far as delays go. They should,
It's just getting them through.
We've been bouncing some ideas around about when we send them to an area with just low, sending them through just all their highs. We have someone over in Area 3 who's doing that right now. We're seeing how that goes, and that'll kind of help.
Did you guys do that with Vanessa Lucas?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah. And so far it seems to be okay, but then we're going to line her up with somebody who's coming in, and we can get, we can kind of double up on radar class and things like that. So we're working with the schedules to help expedite things as well.
So there will, for people that are coming in and doing D sides and then R sides, there is going to be some delay between when they finish their D sides and when they go back up for R sides. But around here we've gotten kind of spoiled for a long time with being able to just kind of finish your D sides and go back upstairs and get your R sides. And I mean, compared to a lot of other places, that's just not how it goes. I mean, you can be in the facility for a year before you even start training, and then you can be there for a year after you finish your R sides before you go back up to get your D sides. So, I mean, it'll be probably somewhere 4 to 6 months for some people, but that's just kind of the reality of what we're dealing with right now. The pay raise, there's a 1.9% pay raise in the Senate proposal for the budget. It wasn't included in the House version, and they're still kind of negotiating about it, but I guess the House hasn't put up a whole lot of opposition to that part of the budget proposal, so there may still be a 1.9 in January. Just something I want to touch on real quick before we wrap it up. So NAC has a disaster relief fund now. They've always had it. It's just been a little bit more focal recently because of the hurricanes they had last year and then this year. This year, the hurricanes weren't so disastrous as far as making landfall, but they just brought with them a lot of rain, and so then that rain came back down, and now they're still getting flooding from that stuff. So they have an EFT that you can set up through the NACA website to where you can just throw on just $5 to the NACA Disaster Relief Fund, and then it keeps that. So what they do with that money is they buy generators, supplies, all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if you guys saw the solicitation for the Disaster Relief Committee, but they're going to start managing some of those resources a little better. And instead of buying generators right now when we need them from like Harbor Freight, and then they use them and then they're broken before they're even done using them and they get rid of them, they're looking at, before they need them, buying some of these resources so they can get better quality at lower prices and then store them somewhere so they'll be ready. So Tom Flannery is the VP out of Miami Center, and he's the chairman for that. He has law enforcement background. I try not to hold it against him, but he's got a lot of emergency management, disaster response stuff in his arsenal also. So he's going to be heading that up. So if you guys are interested in that, go ahead and sign up. October 15th is the deadline. And then you'll see a lot about the Disaster Relief Fund, and signing up for the automatic withdrawals. We'll start pushing that a little bit too. Does anybody have any questions about anything else? Suggestions?
Question about overtime.
Yes.
Rumored the 6-day work weeks, or at least bidding your overtime preference. Is there any talk about any organizing that with 4 people to accrue next year?
It's possible. That would be kind of an area level thing. We wouldn't do that probably as part of the MOU, but if you guys wanted to do that in the areas, you could do that. It's a good idea if it's going to be as bad as it seems. I think Area 3 and 5 on paper look really bad as far as like how many people they're bidding, but they also have some CPC transfers that'll be getting either, like Vanessa's on the floor right now. I think her boyfriend is going to 5, so he'll be hitting the floor. And the initial plan was not to bid them as CPCs. We may go back and bid Vanessa as a CPC because she'll probably be pretty close, and maybe Brian also. But there's some more coming like January, so they won't bid as CPCs, but I think we'll probably be able to get some help before the summer comes along, and because we have Datacom training coming up sometime also in the summer, possibly, which will be another more overtime. But yeah, if that's something you want to talk to the area rep about and figure out how that works, because it can be kind of time consuming when you're trying to build the schedule and figure out, who fits in what hole type deal, but something you can do. Yes.
Are we only going to be able to change from the yes to the no list for overtime once a year still?
We've gone back and forth on that. We had talked about maybe changing it to 2, but I'm actually thinking about just getting rid of that whole paragraph, and you can go back and forth as many times as you want. And basically, what we're looking at doing with that is if you went from the yes list to the no list, you would just go to the you would take the minimum amount of hours of anybody on the no list minus one, so that then you would be the first person on the no list that got it. If you go back to the yes list, you'll go to the top of the hours plus one, so you'll be the last person on that side to get it. So, because before we would always average it, and I think that way people would like flop back and forth and then get more or not get as many, kind of game the system that way. But I think if we just get rid of it altogether and do it that way, it'll work a little better.
With that, in kind of going back to what she was talking about overtime and the trainees that are transfers, with that in mind, like, can we work with the training department to say, you know, we've got these 3 and 5 are really short, we've got CPCs coming in, you know, to streamline, basically prioritize the training that way? Is that kind of the plan, or is it
They are kind of looking at it. The one struggle we've had with that is they had a string of supervisors that they hired that weren't center experience supervisors, and they, in my opinion, they created a real logjam in the training department because they needed our side or D side, then our side. They needed skill enhancement training while they were up there. And so they had thought, oh, we can get these 2 supervisors up here and get them out real quick. And then they were up there for twice as long as they should have been, and then threw a wrench. And I told them if they got any more supervisors like that, they should just give them 2 D sides and let them work. And if they want to get an R side later, then they can go back up there when it's not as busy. But I don't think they have any more terminal supervisors inbound right now.
And since we're on the subject, we're going to be putting together a what are they called again?
Work group.
Work group, yeah. CWG, yeah. Thank you. So that's going to be real soon. So if you have ideas or any concerns or want something to be talked about for the training department, now's a great time to bring that up and make a list, talk to your area rep, and get something put down so we can look at all those things and talk through the viability of all the ideas, because that's going to be coming up next week or so.
And that's part of the idea behind that is to formalize how to get people off the floor into the training department to help out. But
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
it can include other things also.
Yep.
It should be. I think it's all pepperoni and 1 cheese. So, so part of the MOU process this year was we kind of want to change the focus of what we're doing here just as the union in general, and just kind of get the focus back to we're a labor organization first. Yes, we like to have fun, but that's not the focus of what we should be doing. So there will probably be fewer events next year, but the ones that we do will be bigger, but they will also include some type of training associated with it. We'll bring other people in from the region, from the national level to talk about different things, but it'll be more of that. And part of the MOUs was just kind of going through there and streamlining them and getting them back to just more focused on contract language and not so much of, well, if this person does this, then we do this and this and this, and getting in the weeds on some of this stuff. So you'll see some things change with the MOUs that way, but we're hoping that it's more of an improvement than creating more issues. So, but any more questions?
The cleaning contract did renew, and they added more stuff for the dusting. The high dusting will continue, and they're going to add the low dusting. They're going to provide like the Clorox wipes in the area, and then they kind of asked. They said, "Well, that should be good enough." But I don't. That's good that they added that part. But just so everybody knows, I think we're going to continue to work for them to add more of the cleaning stuff to it. So you should see more dusting. It's just a matter of getting people to agree to touch tech op stuff. That's pretty much
Right.
the hold up on that. So hopefully that part is moving. I know some people had asked about that. So
Yeah,
that's
we
moving
did
in the right
have,
direction, I think.
and we had a work group on that, and Vanessa Hess and Angie Brooks were on that work group. So if you have any questions about what they talked about, how things went down, and you know what things they included in the new contract and what it's supposed to mean, they can probably answer some of those questions for you. But I know a lot of it was tech ops was going to have somebody, if they're going to be cleaning behind the scopes, then tech ops has to be there to make sure that they're not breaking stuff. So
And And they agreed to have somebody there, so I think that was the first step in that process.
Yeah. So there should be some improvement there. Anything else? All right. Adjourned.